The Rock finds his real father living on the streets. What he did next shocked everyone. The moment Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson locked eyes with the weathered homeless man on Sunset Boulevard, something shifted in the universe. A flicker of recognition passed between them, a haunting familiarity that sent chills down the superstar's spine. For decades, The Rock had been told his biological father died before he was born. But on that crisp October morning in Los Angeles, the truth revealed itself in the most unexpected way possible, setting into motion a series of events that would challenge everything he thought he knew about family, forgiveness, and the true meaning of legacy. Sometimes life doesn't give you closure, The Rock later reflected in a hushed interview. Sometimes it rips open wounds you never knew existed. Little did he know that this chance encounter would not only change his life forever but would soon captivate the world's attention in ways no Hollywood script could have predicted. As the morning sun cast long shadows across the palm-lined streets of Beverly Hills, Dwayne was driving to a meeting with his production team. His latest action blockbuster had just wrapped, and preliminary box office projections looked promising. At 52, The Rock had accomplished more than most could dream of, transitioning from wrestling superstar to the highest-paid actor in Hollywood, building business empires and raising a loving family. His custom Range Rover stopped at a red light near a homeless encampment that had sprung up alongside one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in America. It was a sight that always troubled him, the stark juxtaposition of extreme wealth and desperate poverty. But on this day, something pulled his attention toward a particular man sitting on a milk crate, sketching something in a tattered notebook. The light turned green, but Dwayne didn't move. His security detail in the car behind him honked lightly, but he remained frozen, staring at the man's profile, the distinctive jawline, the shape of the brow, the set of the shoulders even in their hunched position. It was like looking at an aged, weathered version of his own reflection. "Sir, we need to move," his driver said gently. "Pull over," The Rock commanded, his voice barely above a whisper. Against the protests of his security team, Dwayne approached the homeless encampment. The man didn't look up at first, absorbed in his sketch, a surprisingly skillful rendering of a professional wrestler mid-flight from the top rope. "That's pretty good," Dwayne said, standing at a respectful distance. The man looked up, squinting, against the sun. For a moment, confusion clouded his features, then his eyes widened in recognition, not of the celebrity before him, but of something deeper. "My God," the man whispered, his voice hoarse from disuse. "You look just like my father." The world seemed to tilt on its axis, because those were the exact words that had been forming in Dwayne's own mind. This man looked just like the photographs he'd seen of his grandfather, Peter Maivia, the legendary Samoan wrestler. "What's your name?" Dwayne asked, though something in his soul already knew the answer. "Rocky. Rocky Johnson, Jr." The name hit Dwayne like a physical blow. Rocky Johnson was the name of the father who had raised him, the man who he believed had adopted him after marrying his mother, the man who had never once mentioned having another son. "That's impossible," Dwayne said, his customary confidence shaken. "Rocky Johnson was my father." The homeless man's weathered face crumpled in confusion, then shock. "Rocky Johnson is your father? Then you must be Dwayne?" What followed was a conversation that would forever alter two lives. There on the sidewalk, as curious onlookers began to recognize the celebrity in their midst, The Rock learned the truth. The man before him wasn't his father but his half-brother. A brother he never knew existed from his father's first marriage, abandoned and forgotten decades ago. "He never told you about me, did he?" the older man asked, a lifetime of pain evident in his eyes. "I'm not surprised. He left when I was 12. Never looked back." 3 weeks earlier, in the wood-paneled study of his Miami mansion, Dwayne had been sorting through boxes of his late father's belongings. Rocky Johnson had passed away in 2020, leaving behind a complicated legacy. Their relationship had been rocky, filled with tough love, periods of estrangement, and eventual reconciliation. "Dad, even in death you're still full of surprises," Dwayne murmured as he sifted through wrestling memorabilia, old contracts, and faded photographs. At the bottom of one box, sealed in a manila envelope marked, "Personal, do not open, Dwayne," discovered documents that made his blood run cold: birth certificates, court papers, and a handful of photographs showing a young Rocky Johnson with a woman Dwayne had never seen before, holding a baby boy. The dates corresponded to several years before his own birth. The discovery had sent him spiraling, questioning everything he thought he knew about his family history. He'd hired private investigators to trace what had happened to this woman and child. But the trail had gone cold decades ago after a messy divorce and custody battle. And now, through what could only be described as divine intervention or cosmic coincidence, here was the missing piece of the puzzle. Sketching wrestling figures on a Los Angeles street corner. "I need to understand," Dwayne said as they sat in a quiet corner of a nearby cafe, his security team keeping curious onlookers at bay. "What happened to you? How did you end up here?" Rocky Jr.'s story emerged slowly, painfully, a tale of abandonment, broken promises, and a life knocked off course by the absence of a father. While Dwayne had struggled with his father's intermittent presence, Rocky Jr. had suffered his complete absence. "Mom did her best," he explained, hands trembling slightly around his coffee cup. "But when she got sick when I was 15, there wasn't anyone else. I tried calling Dad a few times. He'd send money occasionally, but he never came back. Never even returned my calls after a while." In the years that followed, Rocky Jr. had actually shown promise as an artist, even attending art school for a time. He'd married young, had children of his own. But a series of tragedies, his wife's death from cancer, a debilitating injury that left him unable to work his construction job, and a subsequent addiction to pain medication, had sent his life into a downward spiral. "My kids don't speak to me anymore," he admitted, shame evident in his downcast eyes. "Can't say I blame them. I wasn't there for them, just like Dad wasn't there for me." The parallels were not lost on Dwayne. The cycle of father-son abandonment ran like a dark current through their shared bloodline. "Where are they now, your children?" Dwayne asked. "My daughter's in Phoenix. She's a nurse. My son joined the Marines last I heard." Pride momentarily brightened Rocky Jr.'s face before shame clouded it again. "They're good kids. Did better than I deserved." As the afternoon wore on, Dwayne wrestled with conflicting emotions: anger at his father for the secrets and lies, compassion for the broken man before him, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility he couldn't quite name. "Come stay with me," he found himself offering. "Just for a while. Get cleaned up, get healthy. We can figure this out together." Rocky Jr. looked at him with suspicion born from decades of disappointment. "Why would you do that? You don't even know me." Dwayne leaned forward, his voice intense. "Because we're blood, and because I need to understand what happened as much as you do." The media frenzy was immediate and overwhelming. Despite efforts to keep the situation private, somehow the story leaked. Tabloids ran wild with headlines. "The Rock's Secret." "Homeless brother. Johnson family scandal exposed. Abandoned son found living on the streets." In his Bel Air guest house, Rocky Jr. underwent a transformation. Years of hard living had taken their toll, but beneath the weathered exterior emerged glimpses of the man he might have been: articulate, talented, with flashes of the charisma that had made both his father and half-brother stars. But recovery wasn't smooth. Decades of trauma and addiction created setbacks. Twice Rocky Jr. disappeared, returning to the streets where life felt more predictable. Twice Dwayne found him and brought him back. "You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved," Dwayne's mother gently advised after the second disappearance. She had been shocked by the revelation but not entirely surprised. Rocky had secrets. He always did. "I'm not trying to save him," Dwayne insisted. "I'm trying to make things right." The turning point came 3 months into this strange new reality. Dwayne had arranged a visit with Rocky Jr.'s children, a tense, tearful reunion in a private room at an upscale restaurant in Los Angeles. Melissa, the nurse, had her father's eyes. Marcus, recently discharged from the Marines, had his build. They approached the meeting with caution, years of hurt creating a palpable barrier. Every birthday, Melissa said, her voice breaking, I'd wait for a call that never came. Rocky Jr. had no excuses to offer, only apologies that seemed insufficient against the weight of absence. It was Dwayne who bridged the gap, sharing stories of his own complicated relationship with their shared father. He wasn't perfect, far from it, but I've come to understand that our fathers carry their own unhealed wounds. It doesn't excuse what they did, but maybe it helps explain it. By evening's end, no miracles had occurred, but a door had cracked open, and in that small opening, possibility flickered. Later that night, Dwayne found Rocky Jr. sobbing in the guest house, clutching a photograph of his children. I don't deserve another chance, he managed between ragged breaths. Dwayne sat beside him, the couch sinking under their combined weight. Maybe not, he agreed, surprising his half-brother with his honesty. But you're getting one anyway. Question is, what are you going to do with it? 6 months after their sidewalk encounter, Dwayne stunned the entertainment world by announcing a hiatus from filming. Family matters require my full attention, was all his publicist would say. Behind closed doors, a remarkable transformation was underway. Rocky Jr. had completed rehabilitation and was taking medication for previously undiagnosed bipolar disorder. He'd moved into a modest apartment near Dwayne's home, paid for by his brother but maintained with growing independence. Together, they established the Johnson Family Foundation, dedicated to homelessness prevention and mental health support for families in crisis. The foundation's first initiative was a residence program for homeless veterans struggling with addiction, a nod to Rocky Jr.'s son's military service. What captivated the public wasn't just the rags-to-riches redemption, but the unflinching honesty with which The Rock approached the situation. In a candid interview with Oprah Winfrey, his first media appearance since finding his brother, Dwayne spoke openly about intergenerational trauma, the complexities of forgiveness, and his own struggles to come to terms with his father's deceptions. For years, I built my identity around being The Rock, solid, unbreakable, dependable, he told Oprah, his brother sitting nervously beside him. But true strength isn't about never breaking. It's about what you do with the broken pieces. When Rocky Jr. spoke, his words were halting but powerful. I spent decades blaming my father for the man I became. And there's truth to that. But at some point, you have to decide whether your past will define your future. The interview broke viewership records. Thousands shared their own stories of family estrangement and reconciliation. Mental health organizations reported unprecedented spikes in men seeking therapy. Something about seeing The Rock, the epitome of masculine strength, openly acknowledging vulnerability had struck a profound cultural chord. Not everyone supported Dwayne's decision. Close friends questioned his motives, suggesting he was trying to atone for his father's sins at the expense of his own well-being. Industry executives worried about his extended absence from film projects. Social media cynics suggested it was all an elaborate publicity stunt. The harshest criticism came from unexpected quarters. A childhood friend of Rocky Johnson came forward, claiming the wrestling legend had good reasons for abandoning his first family, alleging that Rocky Jr.'s mother had been unfaithful, that he might not even be Rocky's biological son. The allegations hit both brothers hard. DNA tests quickly disproved the paternity question, but the public airing of family laundry reopened wounds just beginning to heal. You don't have to do this, Rocky Jr. told Dwayne during this difficult period. Walk away. Save your reputation. I've survived this long on my own. Dwayne's response was characteristically direct. Family isn't a part-time commitment. We're in this together now. The most poignant moment in their journey occurred at Rocky Johnson's grave, exactly 1 year after the brothers found each other. They stood side by side, mirror images separated by time and circumstance. Do you forgive him? Dwayne asked, the question that had haunted both of them. Rocky Jr. considered this, running weathered fingers over the headstone. I'm working on it, he answered honestly. Some days I do. Some days I'm still that 12-year-old boy watching him walk out the door. Dwayne nodded. Me too. But I've forgiven myself, Rocky Jr. added. That's the part I didn't expect. And that's enough for today. 2 years after their chance encounter, The Rock returned to the spotlight with his most personal project yet, a documentary chronicling his family's journey. Critics hailed it as brutally honest and profoundly moving. It ended not with neat resolutions but with new beginnings. Rocky Jr. teaching art classes at the veterans' residence they'd established. Dwayne and his brother establishing college funds for Rocky Jr.'s grandchildren. The brothers training together in Dwayne's home gym, their laughter echoing off the walls. The final scene showed them sitting on the same street corner where they'd first met, the homeless encampment now replaced by the Foundation's first community outreach center. Sometimes family isn't what you're born into, Dwayne's voiceover concluded. Sometimes it's what you fight for, what you build from the rubble of disappointed expectations. Sometimes the strongest family ties are the ones that break, then heal, stronger at the broken places. The world had expected a scandal, a PR disaster, perhaps even career suicide for the beloved star. Instead, they witnessed something far more powerful, a testament to the healing power of truth, the strength required for genuine forgiveness, and the profound impact of choosing compassion over judgment. In finding his broken brother on those streets, The Rock hadn't just changed one life. He'd ignited a cultural conversation about masculinity, mental health, and the true meaning of family that continued to resonate far beyond Hollywood. As news outlets around the world featured their story, social media erupted with messages of support and similar stories of family reconciliation. What began as a private family matter had become a global moment of reflection on the power of second chances. "The hardest role I've ever played is myself," Dwayne admitted in his final interview about the experience. "But it's also been the most rewarding." Rocky Jr., now an advocate for homeless veterans and a budding artist with his first gallery showing, put it more simply, "He found me when I was lost, not just on that street but in life." When asked what message they hoped people would take from their story, the brothers exchanged a look that communicated volumes about their shared journey. "Everyone deserves grace," Dwayne said finally. "Everyone deserves the chance to rewrite their story." If this story shocked you, subscribe because the next one is even more incredible. A reminder that behind every headline, every scandal, every fall from grace, there's a human story waiting to be understood. And perhaps in understanding others' journeys toward forgiveness and redemption, we might find the courage to face the broken places in our own lives with the same compassion.